Hey guys, my name's Phil. I'm actually an Android developer here at Roboto. And so I'm just going to talk a little bit about, I was able to go to a couple of conferences earlier this year that I really enjoyed myself, so I'm just going to talk a little bit about what the experience was like. So I'm sure everyone knows, but just in case you've never been to an Android conference before, essentially it's kind of basically like a smaller Google I/O or a bigger one of these events, in the sense that it's usually about 2 days long, and each day you get probably about 6 or 7 different time slots, and in each time slot you have 2 or 3 talks. So over the course of, say, 2 days, you get something like 30 different presentations by people in the Android community. And they're usually about 40 minutes long, and then they have sort of a time at the end for questions and things like that. And the topics range from all sorts of different things. It's like, stuff about really, basic, like getting into Android, what do I do? And then there's like there's a lot more advanced topics. And so whatever you're sort of interested in is probably something that you'll find interesting. And so just a bit of a comparison of the 2 that I went to earlier this year. There's nothing too exciting on this slide other than if you're concerned about whether or not you're going to get free Wi-Fi. But they were both in April. One was in Boston, one was in Chicago. They're both amazing cities. If you've never been, I recommend going to both. It was really, it's a nice way to sort of, another benefit is it's a nice way to see another city when you go to check out one of these conferences as well. So starting with Droidcon Boston. So it was run by the Boston Android community, and typically that's how Droidcons are run. And it was 2 days. There were 2 tracks, so it was about 30 talks. It was located in a theater just outside of downtown Boston. Did anyone here? Speaking of which, was anyone here able to go to either of these? No. All right. Cool. It was located in a theater just outside of downtown Boston. So kind of think like maybe the Annex, in terms of distance between the city, which was great because it was like a really it was cool to see a city of Boston you might not see if you were a tourist. And I've got a link on the bottom there to some of the videos of the presentations that they've uploaded. And just a couple that I saw that I really enjoyed, I've listed here, and obviously I'll share the slides so you can check these out. But the second one, the Rxify, I found was really, really quite good. It was just discussing RxJava and the different RxJava operators or using comparisons to Harry Potter. So I don't really know much about Harry Potter, but it was still cool. It was really creative, and so it was cool. Other than just someone throwing a bunch of code on the screen, it was interesting, how it was presented. So going on to Chicago Roboto, this one was independently run, by a guy who actually runs conferences for a living. So it has a bit more of a professional feel. And if anyone's been to 360 NDev, it's the same guy who runs it. But that doesn't mean to say that it was too professional. It was still a really very enjoyable time. You could easily go up to talk to anyone. It wasn't too snooty or anything like that. Similar sort of thing, 2 days. 2 tracks. There was a bunch of really good talks. They did something really cool with the lunch for this one, which I'm going to talk about because it was neat. Instead of, usually when you go to a conference, they'll just, if anyone's been to Android TO, for example, there's lunch that they just kind of serve and you go and grab it. What they did was they actually gave you coupons to use at restaurants around the city, and Chicago Roboto was located right downtown Chicago. So essentially you just walk to, there's maybe 5 or 10 restaurants, and you just walk to whichever one you want, and you had $15 or something like that to spend. So it was cool. It was a really cool way to do it, again, to sort of see more of the city and see something that you wouldn't see ordinarily. Again, these were some of the talks that I particularly enjoyed. There were some pretty big Android celebrities at this one, but specifically one I really liked was Jesse Wilson from Square did one about concurrency, but he also talked a lot about concurrency and how it tied in with memory and how things are allocated in memory and when it grabs them and all that kind of stuff. And it was just really interesting, and it was explained in a very accessible way. So I definitely recommend checking that out. So I've been going on about how awesome these conferences are, so I guess the question you might ask, okay, well, so if I can just get the videos online, like why should I go? Like why should I bother going? There's a lot of really good reasons, I think. One is that you get to meet a lot of really cool Android devs from around the world. So if you're here, chances are it's like you like listening to people talk about Android and you like to talk to them about it. And so it's like that times like 100, because there's like 600, 700 people at these events. And not only that, you get to talk to the speakers as well. So, I had like a 10-minute conversation with Jake Wharton about the Pittsburgh Penguins, which is kind of exciting. And so it's and as well, like not all the videos are posted online as well. So like some conferences don't post any, some only post some of them. Like so, you're not always going to be guaranteed to get content as well. And also, as I mentioned, like you get to see a new city, which is really cool. And a lot of these conferences, they're sort of done. Sort of sandwiching a weekend, so like a Monday, Tuesday, or a Thursday, Friday. So you go, and then you can actually, if you got the time, you can spend a weekend here and sort of get a little vacation out of it, which is cool. Okay, so now I've convinced you, and you're like, all right, but like, how can I go? Like, because conferences can be expensive, and especially if you have to fly somewhere. So a couple of tips. One is most conferences have like early bird sales a few months before the actual conferences, and you get some pretty big discounts. So a normal price might be $300-400. The early bird might be $99. So it's really quite a deal. And if you know you're going to go ahead of time, it's a good way to take advantage. Definitely, you can ask your employer to help either to cover the costs or to help you cover the costs. And I mean, this is a good investment for both you and your employer, because you're getting better at Android, and they're benefiting from you getting better at Android. So. Another really good one is to volunteer at the conference, because then you get to go for free anyway, and you get to see a lot of the talks. Like you might help with registration, you might be the guy recording the talks, all that kind of stuff. But you get to sort of be there and take in a lot of the thing, and still meet everyone. And the last one is you could present at a conference, which. First when I thought about it, I was terrified about that prospect, but it's something you can totally do. And so a lot of these conferences, they'll say right up that like, hey, we're looking for people. If you've never spoken before, that's cool. Like we still want you to apply, and we still want you to have you there, because you'll have a lot of cool things to say. So I think the best advice I've heard for coming up with a topic is. I guess it's two pieces of advice, but one is, either you've probably come across some sort of experience in your job, or you had to learn something for your job that was either challenging or took a while, and that was really fulfilling. Well, when that's done, that you could make a conference talk out of that. So someone at Droidcon learned all about the app shortcuts that came out in 7.1. And so did a talk on app shortcuts, and it was really basic. It was just how they work and what they do, but it was really helpful. And it saves you from going to have to read an article and learn it yourself. And now you have someone who's sitting there and willing to tell you about it. Or you could just completely learn something new on your own and talk about that. And there's no shortage of topics of things like that. So especially even you can just pick something that came out of Google I/O, like an announcement, like maybe architecture components or something like that, and specify or learn a lot about one thing and just put it together and talk about it. And I know I was definitely kind of scared about speaking in front of a large audience, but I mean, you can start off in a smaller audience. So, I mean, I don't mean to imply that this meetup is small, because Eric just told us we have like 700 people, which is great. But yeah, you can start it with a smaller audience and sort of get used to it and all that. And at the bottom there, I've just got a list of all the conferences that are coming up, and that's an always updated list of ones that are coming. There's a bunch in the fall. There's Droidcon New York, Droidcon New York, San Francisco, Berlin, London. There's a whole bunch coming up in the fall. So I think everyone should join in and try to go to a conference if you can. It's a lot of fun, and I always really enjoy it. And thank you.
Do we have time for questions?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I have a question. Do you have any tips for making your case with your employer about sending to beyond it's going to benefit them?
Sure. So I guess there's a couple. In terms of the one thing I've always done is I sort of take a look at the schedule and I'm like, even if the schedule's not been posted yet, they usually mention like who the keynote speakers might be or who some of the speakers are, and you can sort of make a strong case that this is a valuable conference to attend to just because the people who will be speaking are really smart people. They're going to be talking about things that are very beneficial to learn. The other, which I've also found is very successful, is you go and you sort of learn whatever at these talks, but you come back and kind of bring that. You sort of say, okay, if you let me go, I'm going to come back and I'm going to do a presentation for either the team or the company or whoever, and say and impart what you learned to them, so that they weren't able to go, but they're still getting the benefit of what you had. And so I think, to me, those are the two best tips I've ever. The most successful the most success I've had is to use those two tips. Yeah.
How far have you gone for these conferences? First of all, I love that your talk is like kind of meta. I love it. But I'm curious, like, how far have your employers sent you? Like, have you made it known to them, like, any Android conference that comes up, I want to go, I don't care where it is, send me? Or is it, like, more local? Like, are they sending you to Spain? Or
I wish. Yeah, it's a good idea. No, typically it's been ones that I've sort of seen and have been interested in, and then I make a case to be like, hey, can I go to this one? I think the farthest I've been was San Francisco, which is still pretty far. So, yeah.
Well, to some conferences, if you apply to be a speaker and you're accepted, they'll also cover part or all of your costs too.
Yes, that's a very good point. So it depends on the conference. So some will cover everything. Some will cover your hotel, and your ticket's always covered. So, but it'll vary conference to conference how much of the hotel and flight they'll cover. But. Cool. Oh.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, for Boston to Chicago, did you drive there or did you fly there?
No, I flew.
Oh.
It's really easy with Porter. You're there in like an hour. So like an hour. Cool. All right. Thanks a lot.